And talking about the Premier League table, Nick Mendola, let's go up and down the table for our Match Week 36 preview predictions. Let's break it all down. Let's focus on the title race to start with, of course. We've spoken this week on PST about both these games in depth, Everton against Man City and Arsenal against Brighton. Let's start with Everton-Man City because I think there's going to be a bit of an upset here and Everton are going to nick a point, but you see City rotating the squad expertly and getting a big win away at Goodison. Explain.
I just don't think a team of this quality, of this understanding of what Pep Guardiola wants, gets to this stage in the season having erased quite a, at least optical deficit, I'll say, because of matches in hand on Arsenal, and then somehow just... The way I want to say it, Joe, is this. The people who will come in, the changes that will be made from midweek, are not people who are coming in with a chip on their shoulder necessarily. The people are coming in with an understanding of what they want to do and that this is their part to play in collecting silverware. And I don't think the motivation is going to be the issue. There's a chance, of course, knowing Sean Dyche and knowing Everton, that they are able to land a couple body blows. But when it comes to the way we've seen Everton defend this year, even if they have their very best day, there are going to be openings. And then it's going to come down to Pickford, who can be very good, but also is a bit mercurial. And my expectation is that Man City will solve this problem.
Yeah, it's fair enough. It's hard to say anything against Man City.
I took the easy route, yeah.
But yeah, I just feel like Everton, confident after that big win away at Brighton, could just cause them a few problems. Obviously beat Arsenal at home earlier this season in Sean Dyche's first game. So they've got previous. That's all I'm saying. I'm just going to leave it there. Talking about Arsenal against Brighton, I think it's going to be a pretty easy home win for Arsenal. They are really purring again after that little run of draws that really derailed them and then that defeat at Man City. But, big win away at Newcastle last weekend. Confidence flowing through Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli and others. Brighton, again, demoralised by that defeat at home against Everton, the unexpected one. I'm going for a big Arsenal win. You're going for a narrow Arsenal win. But we're both impressed, right, with the way that the Gunners have been able to rebound and get themselves back in this title race into the final weeks of the season.
Yeah, I don't think this was a scenario where their collapse would lead them, looking over their shoulder into third place. It was simply a matter of taking the hits that they took. And we've seen this countless times for, I don't want to say lesser clubs, but in lesser situations. We saw Brighton dip a little bit after their FA Cup ouster. We saw Fulham dip after their FA Cup ouster, right? FA Cup. These teams that have to deal with a setback, because when you're vibing, right, when your team is reaching towards goals, you can't help but have to deal with a shot to the system. And I think that's simply what happened to Arsenal. And I think they're back, and even there's probably conversations about them. Well, if we can't pull it off this year, we're going to pull it off next year.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think they're here to stay. So that's been fun to watch their kind of resurgence. A few new players, Jorginho, Trossard, Kivior coming in and doing really well. And again, the discussion about, maybe some of those guys should have played against West Ham and Southampton, that's for another day. But they have a stronger squad, I think, than we realised, which holds them in good stead for next season when they're back in the Champions League. Talking about the Champions League, top four in European hopes. Newcastle United are away at Leeds United this weekend. Your beloved Magpies. Are you going to get another big win for them, Nick? Or do you see this as a potential upset? Because Big Sam, Leeds, they really need the points for very different reasons.
Yeah, Big Sam's going to try again to deflect from his players in the press conference. He'll probably say something about how rich Newcastle is and his days back there and how good he is. And if he had a lot of money, he would buy lots of players as well. But ultimately, when it comes to getting on the pitch, I think Newcastle has shown that they can concede goals over time. But I don't think Leeds showed us anything to lead us to believe that, unless Newcastle's firing balls off the posts again, because Arsenal and Newcastle last week could have been 4-4. Unless that happens, I think this should be a Newcastle win.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Villa Spurs, there's only 3 points that separates these two teams. Villa 3 points behind Spurs. Kind of a race for Europa League now. Villa have done really well to get themselves in that position. Spurs, we all know their struggles in recent weeks, and despite Harry Kane's best efforts, they're going to miss out on Champions League, it looks likely. So I don't know. I feel like Spurs, just Kane and others are just trying to show whoever's coming in next that just trying to prove a little point that even in a bad season where they drop off, they can still be a top 6 club and still be in Europe. So, and Villa obviously had a few disappointing results recently. I'm going to go for Spurs to win that one, and just the individual brilliance of Kane and Son and others just to shine through. Man United Wolves. United getting a bit wobbly, right? I mean, a few defeats in a row for them. What do we think about some of the issues that are cropping up there with David De Gea and others? I mean, De Gea has been great for a large portion of the season, saved them a lot of points, but Wolves are dangerous because now they obviously free from relegation, they're safe, and Julian Lopetegui has got some really intriguing attacking weapons there that are now starting to get going and really enjoying playing in his system. So I'm looking forward to Wolves next season being good, but this season here and now, Man United have to win this one, right?
They do. It's a pivotal time for Erik ten Hag. And of course, everybody's tenure has multiple pivot points. But think about what could happen here. For all the progress they've made, having won one trophy, alive for a second one, imagine if they did dip outside the top 4. And I think we're expecting Liverpool to continue to win. If that were to have happened, the last thing that Erik ten Hag and these players, who I think are behind him, need is to walk out of a season saying, well, same old United. So I expect them to rally. I expect them to be sharp enough. And even if it's just Marcus Rashford getting the job done, I think this game will be close. But again, at Old Trafford, after an Old Trafford setback in recent weeks, the odds are that they rally.
They do. I think they'll be all right. I think they'll be all right in this one. Talking about being all right, Brentford and West Ham, those two teams are totally fine now. Brentford, though, might still have an outside chance at European places, right? If they finish the season really strongly and the others above them slip up. What do we make of that game? Is that just if, Ivan Toney delivers again, you could see him easily getting a couple against West Ham, who will be focused, obviously, on the Europa Conference League semi-finals?
Yeah, you have to be satisfied. You have to think about where you're at as a club. Think about where you've been, some of the moves they've made in terms of navigating the transfer windows, losing guys, gaining guys. I think they just have to be happy, and whether they can marshal that into some performances down the stretch. Again, that's the fun of the Premier League. We mentioned it with the Everton Brighton game, right? You never know who's going to be the more desperate side. And it seems like with the quality as high as it is in these teams, that desperation is winning out a lot this year.
Yeah, I could kind of see a draw in that game between Brentford and West Ham. Saints Fulham, Saints pretty much down. The scenario for them is simple. They have to win this weekend against Fulham and hope that others slip up to still be a Premier League club after 11 years back in the top flight. Could kind of see in Fulham winning that one. They're pretty confident against Leicester. Obviously, Mitrovic is back for Fulham after his suspension, so feel like he's going to come back and get a goal and send Saints down. Chelsea against Nottingham Forest. Forest were excellent in their 4-3 win against Southampton. That was crucial at home. Excellent going forward anyway. Defensively, had a few issues to sort out. Chelsea better against Bournemouth. Got a big win away from home. First one for Frank Lampard. And I guess we're sort of seeing some of the players there at Chelsea being like, hey, don't forget about me, whoever the new manager is. Just watch me and I can do a job. And I loved watching Enzo Fernandez, Conor Gallagher, and N'Golo Kante together in midfield. And I think that might be a trio whoever comes in kind of looks towards as a good combination for next season. But Chelsea Forest, what do you think? That seems like another draw to me.
I don't know. I feel like Chelsea's starting to pull some things together. And again, the motivation that they have, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a draw. But again, at Stamford Bridge and with these players, again, at Stamford with this group of talent willing to impress both the players who are the letdown just doesn't seem like it can last, and yet it does. Talking about Chelsea is so frustrating, Joe.
Oh, it is so frustrating. Talk about frustrating. Leicester City, they look like they could be going down, Nick. They host Liverpool this week, and again, another one where both teams need the points, but for very, very different reasons. They were hammered at Fulham, and Dean Smith and the players looked pretty shocked after some promising displays in recent weeks. So you think Leicester, that's it? They're pretty much down and out? Or do you think they've got a few surprises in them? Because Jamie Vardy usually delivers against Liverpool over the years. But of course, Liverpool, as we mentioned, pushing hard to try and finish in the top 4 late in the season.
Yeah, I just don't see Liverpool falling apart at this point. I think they had their wobbles, and they're already sort of building up towards. You can see them acknowledging after the post match for the final game of the season. You can see them saying, "You know what? We know we need to get to the transfer market, but we didn't really want this season to end." The upswing, I think, is very real there. And Leicester, just you can't bet on them right now. The inconsistencies that you mentioned.
Yeah, Liverpool are going to win that one. And then we finished with two teams who I think we say they're on the beach right now, these players. Crystal Palace have done a good job to drag themselves away from the bottom three, and Bournemouth as well, similarly. And Bournemouth are always on the beach because that's where they are based. But I think that's going to be a home win for Palace. I think they've been really impressed with them in recent weeks. Zaha, Elise, Eze, just excellent going forward. And again, another situation where they're trying to show manager who is potentially coming in this summer, hey, look at me, this is what I can do. And they are all enjoying playing together. So that was match week 36, our preview, predictions. Head over to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com for all the how to watch information, team news, live analysis, video highlights, and much more. We'll have you covered up and down the league and what's going on in the title race, top four, European hunt, and the relegation scrap.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. For even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you over there.